Lastly, Madam President, I had the opportunity to visit the small Gulf nation of Bahrain. It's been one of the more open and forward-thinking countries of the Gulf region. It's also a close U.S. ally, home to the U.S. fleet, and located in yet another difficult neighborhood bordering Iran, just across the straits. Bahrain has been a generous host to our Fifth Fleet, and anyone who's had a look at the map or followed tensions with Iran knows the importance of such a naval force in this part of the world. These dedicated sailors help keep shipping lanes open and ensure that Iran does not threaten its neighbors or U.S. interest. Their presence alone is likely to make Iran think twice about reckless moves in the Persian Gulf. Let me say a word about the Navy. I guess I'm partial because my two brothers, my late brothers, both served in the Navy during the Korean War. So when I get a chance to go aboard ships, I visualize my older brothers and what life must have been like in those days. When I went out with Admiral John Miller to visit some of the ships of the fleet, I met some of the finest young men and women you could ever ask for. Most of them had been trained in Illinois at Great Lakes Naval Training Station, and now we're off serving the United States Navy around the world. No one, unless they have some experience and knowledge of the subject, could understand the enormity of the responsibility which these men and women in the Navy have. We often hear about the heroic efforts of those who are in the Army and Marine Corps and Air Force, and I certainly don't want to take anything away from them. But the important, life-saving, peacekeeping jobs being done by the U.S. Navy, particularly the Fifth Fleet that I visited, cannot be overstated. Bahrain, incidentally, is going through its own domestic difficulties. It experienced its own Arab Spring in early 2011, one that started with peaceful protests calling for a more open political process. That process unfortunately broke down and many demonstrators were killed or jailed. Others, sadly, were tortured. The government of Bahrain did what few other countries in the region would be willing or brave enough to do. They created an outside commission to look into the issues around the uprising. A blunt and sober report was issued, and it's my hope the government of Bahrain will abide by its many recommendations. At the same time, I hope the opposition will seriously explore the latest attempt at dialogue offered by the government as a means to address the current political impasse. Bahrain has so much promise and can continue to be one of the shining lights of the Gulf. Both sides must renounce violence and work toward a peaceful political solution.